Today's lesson brings Larry to the Lone Star State of Texas, around the Athens area. Fishing a smaller body of water can be as educational as it is fun. Let's join Larry for some pointers on catching Texas bass in the grass.
You know, the porco is absolutely one of the most beautiful baits in the water. And to me, it's a big bass bait. It's really a big bass bait. If you get into a lot of little fish, sometimes there's a better bait if you're missing them. But for big fish, I'm going to tell you something. This thing right here catches big fish. It's beautiful in the water. You can watch it. You know, it's not always the fish will come up and hit it when you're looking at it. You don't always see them get this type of bait. Because a lot of times it's when it sinks. That's the whole key, is you've got to figure out how to work it. Other times you can go down the shoreline really covering water and just throw it out and jerk it all the way back to the boat and watch it. When the fish are real aggressive, you can do that. But a lot of times that depends on your weather. Pretty weather and the fish are really biting. That's when they're really chasing. Now this one here jumped on it, but I kind of popped it through a piece of cover. Just worked it through there, and he just jumped right on it. Look at that skinny outfit. Now, he ain't had nothing to eat lately. That's what you call a old individual bass that he's got a little area he guards, and he don't move with the bait. He just likes it right there for some reason, and he hadn't been out gorging on shad or brim or whatever it is that they gorge on to fatten back up. Now, this is also a bait that I'm going to throw on heavy line. When you just need 17 to 20 pound test, because you're throwing it up in places where it's hard to get fish out of that heavy cover unless you've got heavy line. You know, one thing about line, a lot of people ask me about line, and I've got green line on here because this water is fairly clear. Anytime you're fishing conditions that you feel like the fish might be hard to catch or the water's real clear, I just think that you get more strikes on that green line. If I'm throwing a bait like a spinner bait that moves fast, or a buzz bait, or I'm maybe flipping a jig in off-color water, you know, I'm not going to worry about it. Then I'll use clear because it's easier for me to see.
Anytime you're fishing conditions where the fish might be hard to catch or the water is real clear, you seem to get more strikes on green-colored fishing line. However, if you're throwing a fast-moving bait, such as a spinner bait or buzz bait, or throwing a jig or worm in off-colored water, this does not seem to hold true.
Come on, Megan. We want to see lips. Oh, and I did. Oh, I'll tell that dude there. He is mad. He is mad. Yeah, he was a vicious little bass. I was just looking for lips, and I seen them open, and my bait went, he just sucked it in. He just sucked her right in. That's what he did. Well, when they're real shallow in the spring, boy, I'll work him just like that, real fast. Just jerking him right across that stuff. Very erratic. Seems like one of the key things about this type of bait, one of the most important things about this type of bait is the dirtier the water, normally the slower I fish it. In the real gin clear water in the spring, I run it pretty fast. Just keep it a-moving. Now, I will stop it beside let's say I see a white spot out there, see a white spot on the bottom, an old sandy spot, something that may be a rock or any kind of an ambush point, just stop it and let it fall right on top of it. But a lot of the times I'll go down a bank and I'll just really cover some ground with this bait, just jerking him and looking at him. And I tell you one thing, when they won't bite it, it's one of the best lures you can throw for finding fish, because you'll find an area a lot of times where you might catch 2 or 3, but you'll see maybe 25, 30 bass come out and look at it, and then you can go back and pick the right lure for that particular day. He didn't get it. He just took it down with him and didn't get it. Usually, if you can keep from jerking at him like that, I mean, boy, he rolled up there and he got it, but if you can, he hit at it. But if you can just stand not to jerk at them, they'll usually come back and get it. I let that one fall, and he didn't. There, he got it. Oh, George, he got it that time. Now, I just don't know why that fish took a chase at it and got it and then didn't hold on. Come here, you big galoot, you. Oh, he's got sharp teeth. Now, boy, he blowed up on it good. He couldn't stand that porco coming across there. I mean, he jumped on it. That's a nice one right there. What a mouth on that big old bass. That's exciting when they do that. That is some fun fishing. I knew there was one on that point. Come here. I knew there was one on that point. Another big old long bass. Shallow water fish. Boy, that thing's fun to fish. I seen that one come out and get it. Just watch that thing crawling through that grass and it just disappears. When you got a point like that with that wind blowing down it or into it, usually that's the kind of place that I really get ready, and I'm going to slow down and fish it just a little bit slower, because I mean, they live on that kind of place, and when you find them on a windy point, you know, they're feeding. It's not like it's just a windy point. It's a spot where fish get to eat. So I'm ready for one to eat when I'm going down a spot like that.
A point with the wind blowing down it or into it is usually a point that will hold active fish. Be sure to work these areas thoroughly.
Now that one attacked it. He come out of there and attacked it. Pretty fish. Get away from my trolling motor. See how I let that one run with it? And they blow up on that thing in that grass, and you just see a big... tighten that line up and find them, because you'll sure miss them if you jerk up on the strike or jerk at them on the strike. You know, there's nothing like a sharp hook when you're jig fishing. Nearly all jigs have a big hook in it because there's so much of the time you're flipping in tight cover. You're putting a hook in there where you got to have a big bite hook, one that has a wide gap on it. And if you don't have a good sharp hook, it's hard to penetrate a fish's mouth. And you'd be surprised how many people I see that can't sharpen a hook. The main thing is a small hook file. I mean, this is a hook file. It's not something that you'd use for working on your car. It's a hook file. The teeth on it are very close together, and that's what makes it have such a fine cutting edge. And to sharpen a hook, all you have to do is just get on each side of the hook and hit it about 3 times on each side, and then a couple times on the top going toward the eye of the jig. Don't sit there and saw on it. You're not doing nothing that way. Take and just use the cutting edge, and you can put a hook on there that'll penetrate the instant you pull back on the fish. There seems to be some fish schooled up on this bank that are not. Like that, they're just running out of nowhere to get it, just right out and wide open. There must be a little channel or something right here. He's back. Must be a little channel right there. Mark, come here. That's more of a schooling type bass. When they're coming up out of open water and getting it, not on that cover good. When that starts happening, anytime I see them start coming up away from the cover and taking the bait, it's time to back your boat out a little bit farther and not concentrate so much on the cover. The only bad part about that is real big fish happen to be cover-oriented fish, so you have to be real careful. You go to getting farther away from your cover, you're liable to eliminate a great big bass that's up in that grass, but for some reason there's a little channel or a little ditch or something here, and them fish are coming up out away from the visible cover.
If the strikes are occurring in open water away from the cover, it may indicate the presence of a channel or other underwater cover. Move your boat away from the shoreline a short distance. However, be careful not to move the boat too far because you don't want to eliminate the possibility of catching a big bass in close to the shoreline cover.
Oh, he did. I'll tell you, that is some kind of excitement when them fish are up and chasing something right up on top. Great. Come out of the... Come here to me. I mean, when they just run up and get that thing, that's exciting. That just makes your heart stop. Good fish. Good fish. You know, I've told you before, a lot of times bass fishing, you look at all that beautiful cover, and you get in there and you fish real close and right in it, and there's fish in there. But that fish there was 20 feet from the nearest visible cover. And this bait, to me, is one of the best baits that's ever been made for pulling bass up out of areas where there's no cover.
Always look ahead down the bank you are presently fishing and try to see what potentially productive areas are approaching. During the course of the day, pay close attention to what type of water has produced fish. In the future, it might help you eliminate certain types of water and help you key in on productive areas.
Oh, you broke my line. He didn't break my line either. See that, folks? That comes from not checking your knot very often. My knot come untied. Terrible. Oh, my Lord. Now that, wow. Wasn't the monster I was looking for. One that ain't no moving, I guarantee you. Gee, man, they Christmas waterfish. That is a good one. Boy, I mean, he got that thing there. Another one of them that got a good bite of it. Folks, now I'll tell you what, I hope you've had as much fun as I have. Come back and see me again next week, and I'll teach you more about bass fishing. Ain't he a pretty one? Thank you, Mr. Bass.